Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Omar Khalid, but it is the 2nd of May 2024 and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with Palestine and Israel conflict. These war crimes, these crimes against humanity, ethnic cleansing and whatnot that has been continuing for the last 209 days. The number of casualties increases with every passing day. The latest casualties that we have with us is 34,596, almost 35,000. The number of wounded is 77,816. Just in the last 24 hours, 28 people have been killed and 51 wounded. Countries continue their boycott of Israel as well. The latest in this fray is Colombia, whose President Gustavo Petro has announced his country will sever diplomatic ties over Israel, on which he describes Benjamin Netanyahu as genocidal over his attitude towards the war in Gaza. Also, OCHA, that is the United Nations Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, says Israel impeded and denied a significant number of aid missions to northern Gaza in April, and despite the opening of new aid crossings, 6 months of starvation cannot be ended without a consistent supply of aid. This and more will be discussed in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the United States of America that has asked India for a tough accountability as far as the murder plot on Pannu, one of the Sikh leaders, is concerned. This plot was unearthed and fortunately Mr. Pannu was not killed, just like Nijar, who in Canada was killed, and of course Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, had directly pointed his fingers towards the Indian intelligence agency RAW. Also, the US says that it expects accountability from India on allegations of the involvement of government officials in the assassination plot of Gurpatwant Singh Pannu on American soil. Will that happen is another question altogether, but we'll be highlighting the different countries where Indian transnational terrorism has been going on. Then we are going to talk about scientists who are exploring how to improve crop yields of all places on the planet Mars. Now, for future human bases or colonies on Mars to be self-sustaining, a reliable source of homegrown food needs to be a must. And of course, we all need food and water, don't we? It simply would be too costly and risky to rely upon rocket deliveries to meet the food need for the colonists. With this in mind, scientists are already working on solutions to grow food on Mars. It has already yielded extremely good results, but could also yield better results in the future. So, of course, we wanted to share that with you. Finally, the face of a 75,000-year-old neanderthal woman has been revealed. This has been because of 3D imaging and of course the skull remains that were found of this woman and a reconstruction of what a Neanderthal woman could have been looked when she was alive. This is a beautiful example of how science can reveal truths about our past. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns Palestine and the war that has been continuing because of the barbarities of Israel. Today is day 209 of this war. The number of casualties keep on increasing despite of the fact that we hear rumors of some kind of a ceasefire agreement between the Palestinian and the Israeli sides. Nothing concrete for the moment seems to have officially been declared. We've been joined by two guests for this. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by Dr. Amna Mahmood. She's a senior analyst. Thank you very much, Dr. Amna, to have joined us. And in the studios, we've been joined by Dr. Jamil Khan. He's a former ambassador. Jamil Saab, thank you very much to have joined us after a little bit of a hiatus, I might add. Let's begin with you, Dr. Amna. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu refuses to accept a ceasefire in Gaza under any circumstance. He has pledged to launch an incursion into Rafah, where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are sheltering. He says, and I quote, "The idea that we will stop the war before achieving all of its goals is out of the question. We will enter Rafah and we will eliminate all the battalions of the Palestinian extremists there," that he says, quote unquote, "with or without a deal to achieve a total victory." What should we expect in your point of view?
Omar, this is the stated goal. It was stated by Mr. Netanyahu in the beginning of the war. He said that we are going to eliminate all these human animals. Same was the statement by the defense minister of Israeli government. and then they apologize under the US pressure, under the public pressure, but they are still on that. Yesterday Hamas walked out of the agreement efforts because they were not coming on ceasefire. They say that ceasefire should be for the few days and there would be a release of the hostages, and after that war would be restored, and after that what would be the goal of war? Certainly the goal of war is to eliminate Palestinian people. If they may be 1, 200 and 400 and 500, even 10,000 militants, if they see, and apparently there is no evidence that they are there, then what about the 1.5 million people living there without any food, any medicine and any health aid? It means that the humanity is nowhere, and Israel is actually representing unhuman behavior, and there is no one to support. I heard that Mr. Blinken was saying that it is the generosity of Israel that they are offering a week long or so ceasefire. It means that they are also standing with and all the Arab nations, including Saudi Arabia and Egypt and Qatar, they criticized American decision and Netanyahu's decision that this is not fair, that you are asking us to come for ceasefire and you are proposing ceasefire for a limited period. And what about the long
exactly.
closure
the ultimate
of war?
road should be a long-term ceasefire followed by an ultimate solution, which should be in the form of a two-state solution or any other solution. Ambassador Jamil Ahmed Khan Saab, you know about Netanyahu's comments. I'd like to add to that Anthony Blinken, who says no more delays, no more excuses. The time is to act is now. We want to see in the coming days this agreement, and he talks about this apparent truce between the Palestinian and the Israeli sides coming together. We all know the situation in Rafah. We all know that 2.3 million people are cramped up there, and any ground invasion, whenever and if it happens, is going to be disastrous for the people there. What's your comment on the whole situation?
Well, it is a demonstration of the fact that what statements are issued or what statements are given by the U.S. From the U.S. side, including its Secretary of State, Blinken, they seem to be just a lip service, because this is what they've been saying in past, and nothing has been accepted or nothing has been followed by the Israelis. If U.S. really wanted that whatever they are asking Israel has to be implemented or needs to be implemented, there were means to do that. In fact, Israel is so much dependent on U.S. that if U.S. only removes its warships, there are about 3 warships around Gaza, and the other aids, more than 50,000 bunker busters have been supplied. Tons and tons of arms and ammunition have been supplied and continues to be supplied. The cash aid is being given to Israel, so none of them has been curtailed, despite the fact that the congressmen, both in the upper and lower house, House of Representatives and the Senate, they have asked, particularly even including the Democrats, they have asked for the ceasefire, but nothing is happening. So that means it's going to be unabated. That means it's going to continue. That means Israel, what Netanyahu had said, once 19,000 people were killed there. Israel's Prime Minister has made a clear statement that they would continue war until they achieve their goals. What are their goals? If the history is any example in front of us, even 1948, what they did was that they started destroying the villages, and then finally, after capturing 548 villages, and after displacing 700,000 Palestinians at that time, who then shifted to this belt of Gaza, and on this Palestine which we have today. So at that time, they had driven and they had captured. It appears that Israel is going to again capture the entire area The leftover area also, Rafah final operation as per Israel planning and Israel's chief of army staff's planning. They are going to really launch that final phase. And why Netanyahu had made that statement before the arrival of of Blinken was basically just to tell the world that we would not accept any of such offer. And this limited truce, if we accept, we'll accept it if our prisoners are released. And the Israelis want their prisoners released, and they are not giving any assurances to release the Palestinian prisoners. They are not giving any assurances for a long-term truce or for the end of the war. So that is a clear indication. And if we recall, Israelis, they wanted Egypt to allow and to create some facilities in Sinai so that the Palestinians could go there. But Egyptians, they know it quite well that the Palestinians, if they are pushed from their land, they would not be able to go back there because that land would be again captured. So there were at that time, once 1948, and then there was a war in 1956, there was a war in 1967, there was a Lebanon War 1 in 82 and Lebanon War 2 in 2006. At all these times, there were Security Council resolutions. There were again statements by the United States for Israel to follow certain points, but none of them were followed, and Israel did what they wanted to do at that time. So if we keep all these
it looks also,
in mind,
Ambassador Jamil, that this is going to be exactly what Israel wanted, and as per its whims and demands, there will be statements, but it doesn't seem as if there is going to be concrete action. Dr. Amna, 57 U.S. House Democrats have signed a letter calling for President Joe Biden's administration to take possible measures to prevent this assault on Rafah. This is not the first time this has happened. Many a times in the past was as well. The members of the U.S. Congress have asked Joe Biden to do the needful to address this issue. Will, in your point of view, this have any impact as far as U.S. policy toward Israel and Palestinians is concerned? I'd like to add a little bit. In addition to it, the U.S. House of Representatives passes a bill that broadens the definition of anti-Semitism to include the targeting of the state of Israel conceived as a Jewish collectivity. I'd like to also have your point of view on the interpretation of this bill and how it interrelates with the situation that is going on in Palestine.
But you have put two questions. One, that attack on Rafah and what would be the consequences, and attack on Rafah, US showed again and again that there would be no attack on Rafah, and we are the guarantors, and you see that now they are doing nothing except the lip services. Secondly, when we come to the US Congress response, you see that they have just passed a big aid for Ukraine, as well as billions of dollars. And in terms of aid, they always transfer this aid immediately. And you see that when all these people were evacuated and there was a UN Security Council resolution, instead of forcing Israel to abide by the dictates of a resolution of United States, UN Security Council, US said that it is not binding, and immediately after that they allowed to transfer a big chunk of defense material to target these people who are there in Rafah. It means that US and US Congress is just playing a lip service. 57, when they were writing to Mr. Biden, they should have voted against that bill. So it should be on record that they are having dissenting note and they are not agreed with that. That did not happen. A few only voted against. And on the other hand, when they are going to extend the definition of anti-Semitism, it is going to create a conflict already created, that at least 16, 17 big universities are having their campus violence against this all what is ongoing in Israel and Palestine. It means that the whole American society would be fragmented, because the majority of the American people, they think that criticizing atrocities committed by Netanyahu against innocent Palestinians, and especially the children, it is not anti-Semitic to criticize that. Anti-Semitism is not restricted to that. And you see that this is the largest ever number of child, casualties in any war in recent past. So they are resented.
Basically, they are blurring the lines between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism in such a way that you can use the slightest of criticism on what Israel is doing will be now construed as anti-Semitism.
Omar, I would add that, in Israel, there is a criticism on Netanyahu. Conservative are having this because Netanyahu is extending itself to, its decisions are extended to war crimes.
True.
And it is the recognition within Israel. You see the demonstration of 100,000 people in Tel Aviv. They were raising the slogans.
I agree with you on that. Ambassador Jamil, my next question is twofold. The number of Palestinians that have been killed or maimed or injured has crossed 100,000 as we speak. And then the Israeli strikes in Rafah, around Rafah, in Gaza, in the West Bank continue as well. And I have a whole list of areas where in the last 24 hours Israel has bombarded or has attacked. My first part of the question is, when and how will Israel stop? My second part of the question concerns the International Criminal Court and the fear that is there amongst the Israelis that many of the top Israeli leaders are going to be issued, arrest warrants by the International Criminal Court. The Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs warns top officials of possible arrest, although the ICC has not confirmed issuing any. Also, Netanyahu says that if the arrest warrants are issued, it will be a scandal on a historic scale. How do you see this whole ICC issue as well?
Not only that, Netanyahu says that there would be a collapse of International Criminal Court, because then they would initiate a counter measure against it. I think they have already challenged United Nations Charter, and this is one of this particular statement of Netanyahu is once again is challenging the United Nations Charter, because ICC was established under the Charter of the United Nations, and challenging United Nations Charter by itself, because Israel has no respect for the international law, and ever since it came into inception until now, there are more than a dozen Security Council resolutions which has not been followed and which has not been adhered to by Israel, which is a clear indication that Netanyahu is not going to accept it. And then another question arises, that arrest warrant, would that be executed if the top officials whose warrants are issued by the ICC, would they be arrested if they go somewhere in some other country? Because then it becomes a binding on those respective countries to help the prosecutors, to help the International Criminal Court to arrest those people against whom the warrants have been issued. So that is yet to be seen, because the countries so many countries, there are scores of countries where demonstrations are taking place, where there are public protests taking place, where the public sentiments are altogether against the human rights violations which is taking place, against the genocide which is taking place in Palestine. So all these, in the face of all these things, to what extent those countries, particularly the governments of those countries, would be able to implement this, my understanding and my analysis on it is that it will be very hard for any country to implement those arrest warrants, because there would be a continued pressure of the United States and its allies on these respective countries, and they would follow it up as well. Like whenever there is a Security Council resolution.
Jamil, to be very frank, I don't know how things are going to move along. There seems to be some positivity, but a lot of, pessimism also that is prevalent amongst the Palestinians as to where what their future holds and what is going to happen in the next couple of days or the next couple of weeks. A lot of speculations, a lot of question marks. Let's hope all these question marks are answered with a lot of positivity. And we also see a change that is happening within the US as well, with the Associated Press reporting that 900 plus arrests have been made within the universities, different universities in the last few days of the protests that have been going on in all big universities in the US that are protesting this very attitude of Israel and the backing of the US as far as Israel's attitude is concerned. A change is coming within the US. Will that change be prevalent and relevant to the current situation? The next couple of days will tell us, and of course we'll be highlighting that in the days to come as well. Thank you very much, Ambassador Jamil Ahmed Khan Saab, to have joined us for this very important first segment, and we hope to get more of you in the coming days as well. Thank you, sir, to have joined us. Let's come to our second segment, and our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns India, its transatlantic and its regional terrorism tactics, in which of late it has been unearthed by the different important journals as well, whether it be the Guardian or whether it be the Washington Post, of Indian involvement in the killing or the attempts to kill Sikh leaders in the US, in the United Kingdom, in Germany, in Canada, and in other places, and of course in Pakistan as well. To discuss more on that, we've been joined again we continue to be joined by Dr. Amna, Mahmood, who's a senior analyst and who's right here with us in the studios, and we'll also be joined by Brigadier retired Mohammed Zeeshan, who is a defense analyst. We welcome the both of you, and I'll begin again with you, Dr. Amna. The US says that it expects accountability from India in the allegations of the involvement of government officials in the assassination plot of Mr. Pannu on American soil. This follows, of course, the huge revelatory report by the Washington Post that gives names, facts, figures and dates as far as this assassination plot and more assassination plots is concerned, of which Raw is behind and Narendra Modi is behind. Do you see the truth coming out of India regarding Vikram Yadav ever happening? Vikram Yadav, of course, is one of the Raw agents that has been involved in all of this incident. Nikhil Gupta, of course, his name has come out and he's in jail. But what about those Raw agents that were behind these killings? Will India reciprocate? Will India do the needful, or will it be just eyewash or hogwash?
I think that India is not responding, obviously. For obvious reason, because if they would respond to one incident, certainly they have to be accountable for the other as well, as they have assassinated Niger. And Mr. Pannu was a survivor, he could not be assassinated as the plot failed. But if they would be held accountable by the US and they would accept the US report published in Washington Post as well, then they have to accept what Mr. Justin Trudeau was saying. Mr. Justin Trudeau is also very determined to make India accountable for this murder, because a day before he was having he raised slogan in favor of Khalistan in his parliament. It means that he is taking responsibility of his citizens, whether they are Sikhs, Hindus or any other from any other religion. So I think this is the hard time for India. And since US gave the intentions, signals to impose bar on trade, bilateral trade between India and US, though it's not easy for US to do that, because they are having high dependence on especially the trade of services in terms of IT and number of other. They are. It's hard to observe these sanctions if they impose on India, but I think that it's a hard time for India to face all that, because as you just mentioned, all the names, evidences, their place and their networking is also given as an evidence.
And the whole mechanism through which this assassination plot was
even
done.
Their addresses in New York are also given. So it is hard for India to deny that. But I don't expect that India will take responsibility. They would overlook as they have been doing in the past.
But Vikram Patel, who is the US State Department Principal Deputy Spokesperson, says that we continue to expect, the quote unquote, continue to expect accountability from the government of India based on the results of the Indian Inquiry Committee's work, which I don't think is going to be justified or even truthful for that matter. But of course, let's come to the Washington Post detailed report. The name of Vikram Yadav, an officer in RAW who sends out instructions to a hired hit team while Modi was being wined and dined in Washington. Higher ranked RAW officials have also been implicated, including the then chief of the RAW agency. How
Mr.
important is
Goyal,
this revelation as far as all these machinations or transatlantic terrorism perpetrated by India is concerned, while the Indian elections are in full swing?
One thing, Omar, that it means that the previous RAW chief and present RAW chief both are involved, their names are given, plotting was done in the previous chief's time, implementation in this time. It means that this is the stated policy of Indian RAW and Indian government with the approval of Indian government, and that is the continuity. It is not because of one person, it is the duty taken by the RAW as the stated policy of India. Secondly, India itself accepted that it has been conducting such activities in number of countries and including Pakistan, and they openly accepted that at least 20 people were killed by the RAW. It means that they are using it as the daring step by Mr. Modi's government, and Mr. Modi's government is actually addressing to the hardcore RSS and Hindutva voter. And they are expecting that it would augment their agenda and it would increase the support among the masses who want India to be a Hindu state. And they want to assert that now we are self-dependent and world cannot do anything against India. So all these challenges government is able to face, and that would it means that government is having strong muscles. So I think
or at
that
least trying to have strong muscle in order to reaffirm its position as far as the BJP
and
or the RSS
against all
concerned.
its dissidents, including the Sikhs. Sikhs are only one segment. There are 26 movements in India for separation. All those are targeted, but Sikhs are, because they are scattered all over the world, especially in West. So Sikhs are the glaring example that gave actually the message to all other dissident voices in India. So they should be alarmed and they should be cautioned that they will be no more.
No, two names have also come up. Samant Goyal, who was the then RAW chief at the moment, also part of the the head of the intelligence agency in the United Kingdom when incidents happened in the UK, as said by the Telegraph as well, and the Guardian, and also the Washington Post, and then Ajit Doval, who the Washington Post alleges was totally aware of all of these incidents happening across the world, but there has been no confirmation so far, neither from Samant Goyal nor from Ajit Doval, but there are proofs as far as this is concerned. Will this revelation have any impact as far as Indian politics or Indian policies are concerned, or do you think this will be a feather in BJP's cap?
First, that I don't think that Mr. Goyal would accept this, because he is not supposed to, because he is not the policy maker, he is just the instrument to implement the policy.
Executioner.
Yeah, he is on the operational level only. So he will not accept. Mr. Ajit Doval, he is the right hand of Mr. Modi, and if his name is there, he has no need to assert, because again, I would say that this is the message to all Indian masses who are hardliner. They are standing behind BJP and they are appreciating all the efforts and all the measures taken by Mr. Modi to bring India to the level of Hindu state and
the greater India.
Greater India, and they appreciate the policies of Mr. Modi. They are taking it as, just you mentioned, as the feather in the cap of,
All right. In September last year, Justin Trudeau, then you mentioned him as well, the Canadian Prime Minister, accused Indian agents of being involved in the murder of the Sikh separatist leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar. This was also confirmed by different news agencies like Reuters and others. Relations between the two countries went into a tailspin. Canada withdrew 41 diplomats from India because Modi's government had threatened to revoke their legally protected status. Then the revelation by the Washington Post that also talks about Canada, about India's nefarious designs. Has it exposed India to that part of the public that did not know about India's true face? Or do you feel it is going to be business as usual after a couple of days or weeks?
No, I don't think so that it would be business. They were aware of Indian such designs because, you know, if we see the previous history in 2020, Indian agents were captured from Australia, and then again in 2022, they were deported, they were captured and deported. They were having spying activities on airports and some movement of the VIPs. It means that they were
in Germany as well.
In Germany and in Belgium. And you know, as the report was exposed in by European Union that was against about human rights violation, I think that and European Union report in Kashmir human rights violation also, this is a series identification that India is involved in all such nefarious designs. But I think that this is the point when they were not expecting that India would dare to come to United States, to Canada, because it, you know, it's such a disgraceful act for these you know, highly sophisticated democracies and you know, top world powers, that their system of security, conventional and non-conventional, can be, you know, destroyed like this by Indian agents, and their own citizens are facing this death and torture, you know, threats by Indian agents. This is the time. That's why they are reacting, because they think that they are above everything. They cannot be challenged. Their security, conventional and non-conventional, are unmatched, and India cannot violate, and though they actually develop India to the level that they are now, and they think that India would be their subordinate and agent and respectful to them. But when India violated their own sovereignty, it was a great shock for them. That's why you see that not they refuse India when they were protested, they refused to extend even diplomatic, you know, immunity to these people who were there in Canadian embassy. Before that, they made ridicule of Mr. Trudeau when he was here for G20 conference, if you remember, that his aeroplane was having some problem, and there was a fun in of Justin Trudeau that this is the limitation of Canadian government. It means that India is not respecting them. India is not respecting their protest, and that is actually the shock. No question. Your question about business as usual. I think when they are protesting at this level, this is not business as usual. Otherwise, they used to have just a protest and after they withdraw. But India is
under pressure.
India is under pressure. Though I just mentioned before that it is not very easy for all these Western powers to impose sanctions on India, keeping their tensions in South China Sea and their all new plannings in Asia Pacific, especially in the Indian Ocean. But it would not go as usual. They would continue to pursue these issues, as we see that they are pursuing for a number of months. And this report is coming out of at least 4 months, but it is there. It means that they are not ignoring the issue. They are not ready to compromise on their own sovereignty.
That is true. Brigadier Mohammad Zeeshan, defense analyst, joins us online. Sir, thank you very much to have joined us. A recent report by Freedom House, that is a human rights organization, lists India amongst the world's practitioners of transnational repression. This is a term that governments use for intimidation of violence against their own citizens, dissidents, activists, journalists in other sovereign territories. This plus the revelations that have come through the Guardian and through the Washington Post. Will all of this have any impact on Narendra Modi's agendas regarding his country, regarding the region, and regarding Indian hegemony?
Thank you very much for inviting me. I would first refer to two aspects. One is the political clout or the influence India today enjoys within the international or the global community. And second point is regarding the practice which India has adopted and has come to limelight recently. Is it something new or has been happening before also? Only then we will be able to, discuss the impact it may have. So the first thing is that Indians have a particularly economic and political influence in the international community. Like European countries are, head over heels for Indian investments, and they want to do business with India. It is.
Our communication with Brigadier Saab has been disconnected. We'll try to get back to him. But thank you very much, sir, to have given us your point of view on this. But I'll revert back to Dr. Amna. Dr. Amna, US and Western security officials say that it is unlikely that RAW would have launched any of the operations of the kind that the Washington Post or the Guardian has mentioned without a clear understanding that doing so would be met with the approval by the Prime Minister, and I am referring to Narendra Modi. Modi has been dismissive as far as the plots to kill Pannu and Nijar recently is concerned. Also, the Foreign Office spokesperson in India refers to reporters and says that killing people outside of the territory is not our policy. Are they refraining from telling the truth? Are they never going to accept the reality of what India has been involved in the last few years, or even more?
I think that on diplomatic front they have accepted and they have put their concerns to Indian government. But if they would raise this point officially, then they have to go for all these measures which are associated with such type of crimes committed within India, within their country. So they are just giving this a clear they are giving them way out actually to escape them from the sanctions. Otherwise, immediately there would be sanctions on India
if they accept it.
If they accept it, and acceptance obviously with all these evidences published publicly, India cannot escape from these responsibilities. But if they would not accept officially, then these governments have this opportunity that we are pursuing them, we are investigating, we are bringing more evidences, etc. And they are trying to bail out India. I think that these are the tactics used by all big powers. And now India, since it is claiming itself that we are now regional power and we are beyond our borders and beyond regions, so they are trying to exercise those tactics which were already taken up by US, Russia, when it was Soviet Union and other big powers. And I don't think that they are having this capacity to materialize. Making one person an example or two, that is not the success actually they are claiming. Americans and CIAs, they are having this policies to eliminate their enemies, having regime change, 70-80 they have claimed in their paper declassified. India is not on that level, and India cannot afford to break up their, especially the commercial relations with these countries, because they are thinking of the third largest economic power, and that is based on
whether they become that or not is another thing, another question.
But they are basing all their planning on the basis of investment and trade and services.
But involvement in transnational or extrajudicial killings or transnational terrorism should not be part of trying to become a stronger state, and I think this is a policy policy that should be made an example of, so that other countries do not follow suit?
That depends on the response of the US and Canada.
I understand. Thank you very much, Dr. Amna Mahmood, senior analyst, to have joined us, to have talked to us about these two important issues today. Let's come to our last two stories very quickly. The first concerns scientists that are exploring how to improve crop yields on the planet Mars, because they are expecting that there are going to be human colonies in the coming centuries or in the coming decades that are going to live there, and so they need a homegrown crops there, so that they do not have to wait on the rockets to bring the food to them from Earth or from any other planet to Mars. So this is what they are doing in a controlled greenhouse in university of research in the Netherlands. Researchers have identified a way that shows promise to improve crop yields in simulated Martian soil, and the different crops that have been sown, including cherry tomatoes, peas, carrots, tomatoes, they have all shown great promise as far as their cultivation is concerned. And what the scientists say is that with time they're going to include more crops, and they're trying to create an ecosystem in which future colonies on planets such as Mars could be able to cultivate their own crops. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, the face of a 75,000-year-old neanderthal woman has finally been revealed. It is really strange to see that when a couple of decades ago or a couple of years ago, we would have never expected to see a 3D imaging of a person from 75,000 years back, and that too a woman. Now, scientists have produced a remarkable reconstruction of what this woman could have looked like when she was alive. It is based on a flattened, shattered remains of a skull whose bones were so soft when excavated that they had the consistency of a well-dunked biscuit. They had to strengthen the fragments before reassembling them, and of course then they created the 3D model. The scientists say that this can help them connect with who these people used to be, what their characteristics were about 75,000 years back. And of course, this is the first Neanderthal skeleton that has been found in a decade. So exciting times for discoveries on our past is concerned, and how we used to live 75,000 years back. Isn't it exciting to live in an era where you can, on the one hand, go and live on Mars, and on the other hand, see what we used to be 75,000 years back. With that, we come to an end of today's news, and we'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you in Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.